retired, leaving Korea, and came back, and it was tough.
Welcome to the healed circle. All right, so this is what
I can tell you the difference.
Okay, yeah, tell me the difference. What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Healed with Seth, the speaker. Y'all, this is going to be an outstanding show because this is really going to be a reflection of what it is that we do to ourselves and why. But before we go into all that, make sure you hit the share button and let everybody know what is going on and who you are listening to and why. All right, I appreciate that. And also, this is an opportunity for you to help to support what it is that I do. So first of all, the platform Healed is essentially an opportunity for dialogue and monologue about trauma or things that happen in life, but how do we make it to the other side of it, right? Things are going to happen and there's nothing you can do about everything, but what you can control is how you process those things. Sometimes it's something as small as a affirmation that you believe and that you know versus what someone else has said that caused you to shift, and it gets you off your natural path of your definiteness of purpose. So what we want to do is give you those tips and those tools on how to bring yourself back to your true north. And a good way that you can help to contribute to this is by subscribing, number one. Number two, sharing, absolutely free. But then also, if you want to help to contribute to the things that we're doing and to get this message out there, you can go to patreon.com/healed. When you go there, you will get exclusive content, training, some tools that you can use, and also, well, depends on which package you connect with, you will be able to be a known contributor with the next book, The Black Collar Mindset, Part 2. Checkmate. Yes. Absolutely. So again, if you do want that exclusive content and training, and you can become, if you look below, those that's watching, a Healed supporter, go to patreon.com/heal. All right. And if there's anything that you want to talk about, connect with, or with me at, you can always go to SethTheSpeaker.com. Again, that's www.SethTheSpeaker.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. We're about to dive into it. Life is going to be crazy no matter what. There's responsibilities and we have obligations all over the place. It can be your relationships, it can be jobs, it can be anything. However, how you process those things can determine how effective you are. Think about it. You spend X amount of time at work or X amount of time with an individual. How do you feel there? What are you giving? Right? There was a conversation I had earlier this week about reciprocity. What that means. It's a give and take. It's an exchange. It's euphoric. But have you ever been in a situation where you were giving, not receiving? And then all of a sudden you're looking back and it's like, well, who's pouring into me? How's this relationship? How is this job? Wait, why am I really doing this? Have you ever been in one of those situations? Well, ladies and gentlemen, today, my guest, Mr. Feel Better, and we're going to go into that, right? Super dope name. Mr. Feel Better, he's going to talk about not only the issues of working in a job that treated him as just a number, if you will, or they thought of him as a cog in the machine. He's going to talk about that and how he transcended past a 6-year toxic relationship. All right, and where is he at now? Ladies and gentlemen, y'all give it up for Mr. Feel Better.
Wow. Wow. So first off, thank you, Seth, for having me on your show. It's always a pleasure to be on another podcaster's show.
Yeah.
Your intro, your whole beginning. So as someone who helps businesses and independent podcasters use podcasts to generate income, right? the way you pitched your Patreon, sir, I am in awe. I will now start telling people just to listen to the first 5 minutes of your podcast because the way you do it, sir, is amazing.
Thank
I
you.
usually send people to a UK based podcast
Mhm.
because you're for more, I would feel, more business people. Like I could send people bit more business oriented podcasters who want to get a donation style,
Yes.
and I would suggest them to follow your model, how it's more structured. There's the benefit, there's the payoff. You have a very easy system for people to understand what model they'll get. And the way you deliver it is very business like.
Thank
You,
you.
you give the value props and you say, look, even though I'm asking for some change, this is what you're going to get. I'm telling you what you're going to get. So when you hear the price, you're like, well, it's ridiculous, the price. That's so cheap, I'm getting so much. But whereas on the other side, when I send my independent podcasters, I used to send everybody to this one podcast because I didn't have a business oriented one. And I know your podcast isn't business oriented, but the way you did it to a podcast, and I don't know if you mind me name dropping them. Are you okay with?
No, it's fine.
It's the Shit and Gigs podcast. It's two UK friends who started this podcast like 2 or 3 years ago, and the way they do it a little longer into their intro. It's usually within the first 10 minutes. You do it like within the first 5, they do it within the first 10, and it's more of a kind of like come into my family,
Mhm.
which for independent podcasters, that's what you want. You want to build that community, you want to create a family like feel. Whereas for business people, it's more like, here are the benefits you're getting, and you do the benefits versus making it feel like a family. Yes, you're building a community. However, it's more of a, here are the benefits of the community versus let's build a community around this one idea
Absolutely.
thing. So that's why I'm like, hats off to you. I love the way you monetize your podcast, and it's something that I push because I know how important it is to receive receive compensation for the work you do, because that is a lot of work to create a podcast. And I know we're here to talk about me and my story of burnout, but I do want to take hats off to you because having a podcast was one of the things that led to my burnout. I know I didn't put it into the intro, but thinking back on it, it was because it's a lot more work than people really think. Because for podcasters, this is a creation. So we may not be like the regular creatives who create stories or paint pictures or draw something that we associate with creators,
Yes.
but we are using our voice, we're using our intellect, our creative side of our mind to create a package, a video or an audio
Mhm.
thing that can help someone in some way, either relieve a moment of sadness or help you through a dark period, or provide tools or strategies or tips to help businesses grow their business, or an individual grow as a person.
Yes.
So important. But people don't realize, like, that, like, outside the podcasting community, don't realize, like, we put our heart and soul into every episode. Like the time it took you to craft that intro about me, which I must say thank you, it was a beautiful intro.
Thank you.
The only thing I would suggest to you, and I don't know if it was me, I unfortunately haven't had a chance to listen to some of your previous episodes, and it's on my to-do list. It's just like I have to prioritize my guest on my show. So it's like, um but it's don't say your guest's name
Mhm.
until the end.
Mm.
And the reason why, and this is not something I learned, this is something because I study podcasting. I listen, I think it was Kevin or Kevin, I think, of Grow Your Show. He says it builds the anticipation
Mhm.
if you're talking about someone's accomplishments
Mhm.
before you announce their name.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's like, oh, I can relate to that person. I can relate to that person. I can relate to that person, because you hear those kind of things or struggles. Specifically on your show, it's the struggles
Correct.
people go through, and they're like, oh, I nearly had like for me, it's like I nearly had a burnout. I know what it feels like to be a cog in the machine. I know what it is to get out of a toxic relationship,
Mhm.
because when you put the person's name first, it's like, oh, this is this person's story,
Mhm.
and it's not a story that I can connect to because I'm looking at someone else. I have
Mhm.
this idea of what their name is because we all have bias, right, as humans. So when you put someone's name out there, you have their bias already because it's like, oh, I know of Phil, he was a jerk, or oh, I know of Phil, he was an awesome person. And then
Mhm.
you get stuck on the last name like better, and you're like, well, that's amazing as a last name. And then you sometimes may not catch the joy or the connectable parts of their intro.
Mhm.
So by putting them as a imaginary person, you're giving a blank canvas to your audience to start painting with pieces of themselves instead of already preconceived notions of other individuals.
Okay,
Um,
outstanding. I respect that and I receive it. Thank you. Thank you for
you're
that.
very. I just want to like. You're already like at like an 80. I'm like, can I make it to an 85?
Oh, always, always, and I'm
Like,
open to that. And so it's different because you know, being able to be a podcaster and have another platform, I'm always looking for ways to grow. Always looking for ways to grow. So I appreciate that. So, but with that, I want to make sure I let my audience know we appreciate you all for being here right now. We appreciate you for just waking up and tuning in to Healed, hitting the share button and subscribing to what it is that we have to say today. And sir, I would like you now to introduce, and I appreciate everything that you said, but now introduce you. Talk
yes,
about.
okay. I am Phil Better. That isn't my real name. It is a stage name I use. My actual name is Philip Lemieux. I'm a 37-year-old Canadian guy, French Canadian. That means I'm from Montreal, Canada. That had a burnout in 2020, and through investing in himself, decided to help individual podcasters and business leverage the tool of podcasts to grow their business, their income, so that they can have the freedom that they always deserve. What that all real boils down to, in 2019, I had an argument. 2019 was the best and worst year of my life. I had an argument with my mother on my birthday about Christmas ornaments, of all things.
Mm.
Um, and my dad was like, That's it. You're going to the doctor." And the doctor started me on medication. February 1st of 2020, I went on burnout, and started therapy pretty much the week after, and did weekly therapy for like 6 months. But yeah, it's a fun story of love, pain, and a lost child, if you will. But I'm in a my therapist says it every time I see her, and we do about monthly sessions now. That the person I am today is nowhere close to the individual I was that walked into her office in 2020. Y-
Absolutely.
And so, like, I give her a lot of credit for what the help that she's given me. Um, and she's like, I did nothing. You do realize, pardon me, I did nothing. You did like 90% of the talking. I just asked a question, how were you? And you just went off, like, and she's like, you do most of your work outside of the office, or out of our sessions. But I still, if I didn't have her as a sounding board, I don't think I would have did the leaps and bounds of where I am today, and both personally and professionally in my business. So
Congratulations. You
thank
know
you.
what? I'm such a huge proponent for therapy, but also at the end of that, regardless of where you go, and Phil, I'm sure that you can understand this. No matter where you go, you still have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah.
No one is going to wave a magic wand and say, boom, you're now fixed. No, it really takes you to look at yourself and say, hey, it's time for me to change my diaper,
Mhm.
right? Because the shit is stinking regardless of what it is. Sometimes life is going to happen. Well, take that back. Life is going to happen, but it's how are we connecting with the right individuals or using the right tools to reframe that perspective. So, what was the beginning of your healing process?
So the pardon me. So the healing process probably began when I hit rock bottom. So um 2019, I say, is my best and worst year. because I got to visit Ireland for the first time, and it was on my bucket list for the longest time to visit Ireland because that's where I have some ancestry, right? And I want to, and it's like a mythical place. Like I just felt drawn to it because I just always heard the stories of the myth, the legends, right? So I always wanted to visit um, Ireland. So I got the opportunity, and it was with my partner at the time, and it was like the relationship was ended. We just haven't talked about it. Like you get to a point where you're living with your best friend, and it's not fun anymore. There's no joy in it. You're just going through the motions, and it's just like soul depriving, and it's nothing on her. um I realized it was more me. I was at my heaviest. I was 300 pounds. I was not content in my job. I had no passions. I had lost who I was. And looking back at it, she was probably in the same position I was. She put on a little bit of weight and she wasn't probably happy, but I had been like her biggest supporter. Like I was like, and I'm not saying this to say victim, victim, victim. It's not that. I just want to like paint the picture. Like she wasn't happy with her job. I was like, I'll help you get her a job. Like that's who I am. You're my partner. Like it's ride or die. I give 100%. I don't care. It's not 50-50. It's 100. I'm there. I'm showing up 100% of the days. And just in case there's one day that you're like, I can't do it tonight, it's like, no problem. I'll take that 101. I'll take that extra percent or whatever, carry us to the goal line so that we can get into bed at night and be like, we did it, you know. I wasn't sure if we're allowed to swear, so I'll try and censor myself. I apologize if I do drop anything. But it's like when you're in a partnership, it's 100%, and that's how I believe for a business partnership as well. You have to show up 100% of the days, no matter what, because it's on you. It's your job to make sure that you show up and take accountability for your actions to make sure that the relationship works, be it a business relationship or a personal relationship. And I was doing that, but I was also giving more because I felt her drifting away. So I thought if I did more, she'll come back to me,
Mm.
which is the fallacy of everybody, you know. Like we hear it, if you love it, let it go, and if it was truly meant to be, a come back. But when we get into that situation, we're like, no, we don't want to lose it. No, come back, stay with us. And so by pulling her closer, I was pushing her further away.
Mm.
And like I was not a person, like I was not someone I would want to be friends with. You know, I had a negative mindset. I didn't believe in myself, all these negative things. Um, I got to Ireland, had a great time. Looking back at the pictures, I'm like, wow, that was me. I need to go back, take better pictures. But I thought I enjoyed my time there, but it wasn't. We ended up breaking up like maybe a month or two after going to Ireland. And it was kind of like, yeah, it's mutual, but she's like, literally said she was no longer attracted to me. And it was like a knife. So I just said, okay, I'm not attractive anymore to anyone. And it just spiraled.
Mm.
Um, I also got the opportunity to do like the craziest thing I had done in my life up until that point, 72 hours in England. Like I had helped her get a job working for one of the airlines here in Canada, and because of that she was able to put me as a buddy. And so she's like, before I put my brother on, is there a trip you want to do? I'm like, yeah, I want to go to England. I want to see some friends in England. Maybe that will help me up, because I had built a podcasting community, because I had been podcasting for most of our relationship. For like, I've been in the podcasting world for just about a decade now.
Nice.
And so my first podcast was a movie-based podcast, and so it was just reviewing movies and pop culture. There was no structure to it, because I didn't understand the world of podcasting, right?
Mhm.
So I had made a whole bunch of these amazing friends through podcasting, and I'm like, I want to go visit them. So I was like, maybe that will cheer me up. Maybe that will make me better, right?
Mhm.
And so I jumped on a plane. She got me a cheap ticket, jumped on a plane, left Thursday night, landed Friday morning at like 8 a.m. or something, or like some god awful time. Like it was like, but it was still like night for me because of the time change and
Right.
all that. And the hostel wouldn't let you check in until 1 p.m.
Wow.
So here I am. It's like 9 o'clock or like 10 a.m. in London. with like my backpack. I'm dreary, bags under my eyes. And I'm like, oh God, what do I do? So I bum around, saw the crown jewels, saw the Tower of London, did some touristy stuff. Ended up partying that night. The next day, I had to catch a train to go to Leeds to see some. That's where the party was in Leeds. So I saw Buckingham Palace. I'm like, oh my God, that's cool. Look, oh, Kensington Palace. Wow, that's cool. Okay. Jumped on a train, jumped on the underground, got to the train, went there, spent like literally like maybe 8 hours, like because I in Leeds, which is a great place, met a whole bunch of people, came back, like had to wake up stupid early, jumped on a plane back to Canada, all within like 72 hours, and then went to work on Monday.
Oh wow.
Like it was like it was something crazy. And they're like, you didn't take an extra day off. I'm like, I didn't have any days off remaining, so I couldn't.
Right.
So, but that's what I did because like after the relationship ended, I had nothing because I did given so much to this relationship, I dropped everything behind me. So I had nothing. So what did I do? I replaced my relationship with my job because I'm like, well, I have nothing. I might as well sacrifice my life to my job because I heard that when you sacrifice to the job will reward you,
Mm,
that old saying that the older generation sold us that
right.
unfortunately is no longer true because of greed. But that's another story, and we're not going to get into it. So I threw myself into my job, and my boss, credit to him, probably saw what was happening and wasn't sure how to address me and like how to like say, hey kiddo, like you I need you to slow down, take a break, do something, like, because he didn't know. He saw like a burnout coming. I don't know how or if he had seen the signs way before I did, but I feel like he had seen it.
Mhm.
um and he was not surprised when I walked in and was like, "Yeah, I'm off for 2 months." He's like, "Yeah, no, go get the fuck out, get the frick out of here."
Right.
He used the vulgar version of that,
Mhm.
but yeah. So like, I had thrown myself into the work. I was not happy. I was working in the fraud department of this financial institution. So already I am not in a positive location because you're dealing with the like either someone's being frauded and you have to help this little old lady who just got a romance scam, like kind of get some money back, but also walk her through the process that the bank has set up so that they don't have to pay you back. But because the government has said, well, they're a victim of fraud, you have to do something. So they make it as complicated as possible to pay them back. So you have to walk this old lady through, or you have to help try and explain to someone that just because an offer came from LinkedIn does not mean it's an actual job. You are technically money laundering and you could be arrested.
Mm.
And it's like, I have to tell you this because I'm legally obligated to tell you this, but I can't believe you thought that, hey, we're a new business starting up in Canada. We want to send you $30,000 for you to then take out and put into a crypto machine to send to us. And you get to keep $1,000 of that. Like, where in the world does that make sense? Like, I want to know because I want to live in that part of the world.
Right. Right. Right.
And like, so like, you're dealing with these things, you're dealing with, unfortunately, sometimes the worst people in the world, because you're listening to these stories and you're like, well, you have to be firm because you're for the bank and you have to follow the regulations, and you technically can't give them the answer because if you give them the answer, you're going to cost the bank money. And then you have this meeting like, why are your kind of refunds are higher than the like, that just is soul sucking, like, and that just put me in a dark place. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I was dealing with that on top of dealing with some incompetent, unfortunately, individuals who didn't do their job really well. So
Mhm.
I had to take up more of the responsibility and do more of their job so that because my bonus is affected if the department doesn't hit the quota. It's like, I don't get the money and I like the money, and banks are notorious for being cheap. So like, that just added on, compounded on. And then with my podcast I was doing, I had a co-host, but the co-host wasn't as passionate into the podcast as I was. So I was doing all the work and he was just showing up. And like I love him. He's one of my best friends. And he ended up going off the podcast, and then another podcaster joined. Same thing happened, and I have nothing towards them because I didn't clearly define the roles.
Mhm.
I said this was my podcast, so they're like, "Oh, I'm just a co-host. I don't have to do anything." Right?
That's right.
And then the like that, just like the stress of dealing with that and trying to do, I'm like, oh god, I have no time for myself. I just want to watch Netflix all day, or I just want to do this and that, and then the stress of your family, questioning. And it's like, can't you just Google this? Like, it's on Google. Like, we have Google for a reason. Like, this is like, you ask me a question, I Google and then send you the link. Like, do you not realize, like, I'm not actually giving you the answer, I'm giving you a Google link to the answer? Like, can you not do this? And then just that building up the stress, and just and it just burst into an argument with my mother over Christmas ornaments on my birthday.
Wow. Okay, Phil. Wow. 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 So, whew, you hit a lot. You hit a lot. And I'm sure there's individuals, no matter where they are in their life, they can relate to bits and pieces of everything that you just communicated. And so, again, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Mr. Phil Better, right? We're talking about burnout and what that means, what it looks like. And he just eloquently articulated how your stress and how you're continuously giving without identifying what you need can it can eventually either you can blow up, right? You can explode or you can implode. And so he talked a very little bit about the help that he got about that. However, to the point where before he got help, he blew up about Christmas ornaments, but it wasn't just the Christmas ornaments. It's just different things. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you this in context of what burnout is. Think of your car. Your car needs gas. That's one thing, but it also needs oil, right? You need transmission fluid. You have all different things to keep this thing running. And so that's what our bodies are like. And outside of just the food, right, and water, sunlight, and things of that nature, we have to feed ourselves with the right energy to continue to keep this machine going internally. So that is taking ourselves away from certain things, giving ourselves the time, and the love back, and not looking or expecting that validation outside of you. So, to your point, Phil, what I'm hearing is you did not know how to create a boundary, not only for other individuals, but even for yourself. What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
That it's 100%. That's what it was. I didn't have a boundary for anything. I was like, yes, I'll do this, I'll do that. Yes, yes, yes. Because I was wanted to make people happy, because I wanted people to like who I was, like me, right? And I didn't understand how to do that because of like traumas and blah blah blah. So
Right,
I
right.
was just like, yeah, let people just walk all over me, and it's okay, you know. Then I had the blow up. I submitted my burnout request, got the 2 months, and it's like 2020, February 2020. There's a little thing. I don't know if people have heard about it, but there was at that time there was like, oh, a little flu-like virus is coming over from China. So everybody's like, oh, it's nothing. It's going to be like, SARS. It's all going to be okay. March of 2020, as I'm on my second month, or starting my second month of burnout, the world just shuts down.
Mhm.
I go from, and I had identified my nephew, who was only a few months, like 2 years old at the time, as a point of happiness for me. Talking with my therapist and just being around my nephew was just pure happiness. My nephew was like, it's a child, it's a baby, it's a child, it's pure happiness. All it knows is unconditional love. So if I hold that, I have unconditional love. I have the love that I was seeking, right? And it was just, I just needed to love myself, my inner child, right? But so I go from being able to see my nephew and physically hold my nephew and have this pure love in my hand every week to not being able to be in the same room as him. And it's like, oh, dang, I need to find something else to find that happiness. And with working with my therapist and investing in myself by studying the people who are more successful, connecting with entrepreneurs and that, I was able to realize that I'm adequate enough, that I am not a bottomless pit of emptiness. Like I can start feeling like it's taken some time to get to like filling up that hole that was just the emptiness, and to a level that it's now covered, and I'm slowly growing, right? You're always growing, you're always filling your glass, if you will. And so, and like realizing, okay, I need to find other things that bring me joy. And during COVID, like I was working from home, like I was off, so I had like nothing to do like with my days. I had 24 hours to do whatever I want. And it was like, okay, now you have this. What are you going to do with this? This is something you've always dreamed of. And something I just realized now, like I had manifested the fact that I wish I had more free time. And it was like, well, you wanted more free time. You didn't specify. So we're going to give you burnout to give you that free time,
Right.
you know? And it's like, fate. Wow. Okay. Cool. Double-edged sword
Wow.
there. Thanks. But it
Right.
allowed me to start watching YouTube a lot more. And what was popping off were like people doing the digital entrepreneurship, the laptop revolution. And I'm like, what is this? I started growing up with the internet. Like I'm nearly as old as the internet.
There you go.
So like when the internet first started coming out, we got these big warnings saying, don't trust the internet. You
Right.
can't make money on the internet. It's a scam, scam, scam. And then I'm start looking like the internet's about as old as I am. And these people making multi-million dollars and no one's been arrested yet. You know, like we had the dot-com bubble burst and like no one went to jail for that. So maybe it's not a scam. So you start reading, like you see that you hear the YouTube millionaires, you're like, TikTok influence. Okay, like there's something here. So
Mhm.
you start diving deep, and most people start with the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. They hear that book constantly pop up in these digital entrepreneur people, right? So I read it. I'm like, okay, what's my 4 hour work week? Like, what can I do? So I tried affiliate marketing, wasn't my thing. I tried drop shipping. I was like, no, too much money. Like I tried all these other things, and I'm like, I don't know how to be an entrepreneur. Because for me, an entrepreneur builds a brick and mortar store.
Mhm.
How do you build a brick and mortar store online? So come to November of 2020, I decided to start to interview entrepreneurs, specifically digital entrepreneurs. The reason why I chose podcasting is I was like, oh wait, I'm a podcaster. I'm really good at interviewing people. I'm going to interview these digital entrepreneurs, how they invested in themselves so that they can become the success that they are today, right? So it was just like, okay, I have this network. I don't really have a framework, but I'm just gonna go with why, memory, tip, and book, whatever. Like just here are 4 questions I need to ask in an interview, but I'll be more conversation. So I start sending out I'm like, I have to launch this by the 1st of December. I gave myself a deadline. I was like, this is what I need to do. I need to get this out because if I don't, I'm going to regret it. So I just put everything into it. So I was working a 9 to 5 at that time, uh, training in a different department of the bank because I realized through my therapy that the negative space that I was in because of my job was not helping me. So I couldn't leave my job because I needed money, because I like to live and eat. Pavlov said something about hierarchy of needs.
There you
Food
go.
is up there, you know.
Yeah.
um, so I was like, okay, change departments, maybe that will help. So I took a more of a backseat role where I would be offering help to, instead of clients, to members of the bank, specifically in the banking department. So either in the branch or on the phone, if they had an issue, they called me, I would help them. So that required that I had to train, which meant 9 to 5, which was like awesome. Because if I'm working 9 to 5, then after work, 5 to 10, I can do all my podcasting stuff.
Mhm.
Because most business owners are like, you know what, I prefer the end of day
That's right.
interviews, right? Because it means I don't have to worry about if the interview goes long, we're good, all this stuff. So I started peppering Facebook groups, da 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 da. I ended up within like 2 to 3 weeks, or within like nearly a month span, recording the full first season, 21 episodes of my show
There you go.
before the 1st of December, or within like the first week of December.
There you
Like
go.
it was like by the time like the launch window had finished, I had my first season done, 21 episodes. And it was literally 9 to 5, 5:30 I would be in my studio, which was just not this apartment, my previous apartment was just the corner of my living room,
That's right.
because I was working from home, I needed a dedicated room, and I had a spare room, so that was my office. Moved all my podcasting stuff into the corner of my living room, and literally recorded episode after episode from 5 to 10, and it
Mhm.
was like 45-minute episodes, and it was just back to back. And some days I would do like 5, some days I would be doing 2, and then those days I was doing 2, I was either in Facebook groups looking for guests or editing my episodes so that I could get it out and get it ready, uploading, studying podcasting. Like I was just like, podcasting was my life, my
There you
job
go.
after work.
Mhm.
And while I was interviewing these people, the number one thing that popped up, like the number one tip pretty much, was just do it.
That's right.
Just do it. Like there is no plan. When you're an entrepreneur, you're building something that's never been built. So there is no plan on how to do it. You have to build it yourself. And along the way, you're going to figure it out.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there's basic things like, okay, well, a business plan, you have to have a goal, and you have to have this, and, a budget. Like there are tools that can help you. But like if you're building a podcast, no one's done the podcast that you've done before because it's your voice.
That's right.
Like, yes, you can say it's an interview-based podcast. Okay, cool. How many interview-based podcasts are there? There's billions, and they ask billions of different questions. So like it's like you're building it as you go. So it was like, oh, okay, so I have to figure out how to do what I want to do to get the 9 to 5. Okay, it's going to be with podcasting. And then randomly, I landed my first client the same month, I believe, that I got an award for my podcast.
Nice.
So in December, I think I nearly released a full season, or I released at least a dozen episodes
Mhm.
in the first month. And then in January, a podcast that I had followed and I was friends with, because like when you're a podcaster, you have to support other podcasters. So you start following other podcasters. And he was this podcaster was in the movie space, and he was doing, hey, we're gonna do an award show. Submit any podcasts that were done in 2020 to our award show, and we'll pick the winner. We have a panel, and this guy runs film festivals, so he knows how to run a judging contest and award ceremony and stuff like that. So I submitted my podcast and forgot about it. Go back to doing interviews, and the first client that I landed, I was like, hey, do you have a podcast? And he's like, no. I'm like, I think you should. And he's like, maybe. I'm right now just looking to get on as many podcasts. I'm like, well, I have a plethora of podcasts. Let me know. He's like, can you get me on 5? I'm like, boom. Within like 20 minutes, I got him on like 13 podcasts. And he's like, you good.
Mhm.
He finished the round of those podcasts, came back to me. He's like, hey, yeah, I want to start a podcast. And as he sent me that, I got another message from the podcaster that hosted the award ceremony saying, hey, you've been shortlisted.
Mhm.
I was like, wait, what?
Mhm.
So here I am, and I look at the competition, and it was for podcasts that were done in 2020. I have a dozen episodes. These people have nearly a full year worth of episodes minimum. They're looking at least 26 episodes, or like, and I'm like, how am I going to compete against these titans in my eyes, titans of industry in business? Like these were credentialed business people. These people had actual money. And here I am at this podcast under a business category where I have no business in at all. So I get that I'm shortlisted. I see my competition. I do a post thanking, and it's not user submitted, it's like user votes. So I'm like, at least there's that. I'm covered. Like now I'm there. I don't know how many people are on the panel, but now I'm like, I may win. I don't know. So start the podcast for my first client, and then I watch the show, right? And watching the show, I had known like a day before that I had won. Like I had won Best Business Podcast in 2020.
Congratulations.
12 episodes. I was like, how? What? Like I look back on it, I'm like, they were shit. Compared to the competition. Like I'm like, I feel like I robbed the competition. Like I don't know how I did it. I am in disbelief, but I won. So I was like, okay. So I had to film an acceptance speech, and I couldn't tell anybody that I won. So I filmed this acceptance speech. My brother's chilling with me, and I filmed it, sent it in. The next day, my brother was coming over to chill with me. So I'm like, hey, there's an award that I'm up to. I want to watch the ceremony to support, but also to see if I won. He's like, yeah, sure. So already I know I won, but
Right.
it's like, I kind of want to rub it in my brother's face. It's a little proud thing. You're like,
right.
So here we are. We're sitting watching it. I'm feeling good about myself. My client's podcast is about the launch. I've been nominated for an award. I don't know if I won. And I've actually lost weight. Right? This is 2021. I am not the same person already just in a year of therapy. Like my therapy was weekly for 6 months. Then we went bi-weekly. Then we just landed on monthly. And then I actually stopped for most of 2022? Or at least like from just before November 2021 and August of 2022. I stopped therapy nearly for close to a year. I restarted it after some event, and I was like, I need therapy. And so now I do monthly. But so it was all that. I had started walking again, started intermittent fasting to lose the weight. I'm now, I can proudly say I'm down 100 pounds from December, or I can say December 2020, when I was at my heaviest at 300 pounds. I'm in a healthy relationship with a partner that shows me the love and affection that I need. And we have the boundaries, even though the boundaries are every day a challenge for me to stick to my boundaries. Like it's more on me to stick to my boundaries.
There we go.
And so it's just like building that fence every single day on my land. That is my world, right?
There we
Like,
go.
this is my empire, that I'm building an empire. And before you build an empire, you need to build a house.
That's right.
So I had to destroy my old house of who I was before, the false notions that I had been sold, and start creating who I was authentically. Who was Phil Lemire? Like who is Phil? Like who am I? And I know it's a question like it's very philosophical, and it's all this.
No,
but it's going down like looking at what I was taught and being like, well, no, I don't like that. Okay, take that out.
And being okay with it.
And being okay with it. Some of the things are like, I'm still struggling. Like it is, but I'm rebuilding who I was. I'm healing those issues that I had in the trauma. And I was on another podcast talking about this. And I normally don't, I know I should be speaking more about my transformation and that, but I prefer helping people more by helping them with their podcasts. So I normally talk about podcasts. And so I'm a little more long-winded than normal. I'm more concise because I'm not telling the story as often. But like I had to rebuild everything from spirituality to what's possible. Like people say, like I always heard about manifestation, and like I read The Secret, and I was like, okay, man, whatever. If you go on my show, the Phil Better Show, which is my first podcast, it says it's an award-winning podcast. And I've always said it was an award-winning podcast. It's never won any awards. It literally has an asterisk saying whether or not it won an award is up to the figment of imagination of the creator, or something along those lines, saying like it's not won an award. I'm just being delusional, right? And And then like 2021, I won an award for a podcast I had put out for 12 episodes about for something like that. And so like I'm looking back in my life and realizing that manifestation is possible. The more you believe in something, the more it's going to be created. However, there is a stipulation to it. There's a tipping point that you start believing and you have the choice of either start taking action or continue to believe in it. If you keep telling yourself that you are a marathon runner and you are just walking, every day, if you just, I'm a marathon walker, I'm a marathon runner, I'm a marathon runner, I'm a marathon, and you're walking every single day. Let's say you've never run a marathon, and it's been shown that people who have never run a marathon can run a marathon. But let's say you're a fit individual, you've never run, or you can never run over a mile or whatever it is, like you get winded or whatever, your cardiovascular is bad. If you do daily walks every single day, telling yourself that you're a marathon runner, there will become a point in your walk over X number of times that you go for your walk that you're going to say, well, if I'm a marathon runner, why am I not running?
That's right. That's right.
And then you're going to have a choice, be like, well, I'm going to start running, or it's like, nope, I'm a marathon runner. I'm a marathon runner, because it's easier for you to say I'm a marathon runner than actually become a marathon runner. When you get to that point where your brain starts saying, hey, buddy, if you're a marathon runner, why aren't you running?
That's right.
You take that action.
I love it. I love it.
And it's that is manifestation. Like, yes, you can keep saying the words. Nothing's going to happen until you take the action. So if you start saying you're a marathon runner and you start running, you're taking the action right away.
I love
Sometimes it takes a bit more a bit longer, you know, for people to realize that. Like I always said, therapy is good for I need therapy, but I'm not ready for it.
That's right.
Well, life came up, hit me with a sledgehammer and said, boy, you were ready 10 years ago. You should have been in therapy.
Right.
You know, like if you're not going to listen to your brain, well, it's going to hit you. Life's going to hit you, you know, like, and so like looking back in my life and analyzing my life from a different perspective, like cleaning off the lens of my life, like I may not believe in all the wide range of like the power of belief in that, because, you know, I believe in science, you know, but science is, the Nobel Peace Prize just came out saying that if you think it, you can create it. Like the Nobel, like I don't think it's a Peace Prize, but the Nobel Prize was awarded to like a team that proved that if thinking it, you can create it. This is science has just proven affirmation works.
That's right.
And like don't get me wrong, like I still have a hard time believing it, but every morning I say an affirmation in the mirror, because I'm like, hey, look, science prove it. Like I have an app that tracks my productivity. Since I've gotten that app, I have not missed one day saying it in the mirror. And if I would leave my house without saying it, I have it on my phone. And so I would just look and I can see the reflection of myself. And I would just concentrate on the reflection of myself. So I'm still looking in the mirror of this affirmation.
And what's the name of the app?
The app is called Productivity.
There we go.
It's a great app. It's an app that I like. It's just great because you can create a minor habit. It doesn't gamify anything, which is fine because I don't need it to gamify. I just need to see the consistency. And like once you see like 115 days, you're like, I can't break that.
That's right.
Because like, oh man, it took me so long to get there. I don't want to restart.
No, you're right. You're right. So look, I want to go into this real quick, man. I want to give you 1 minute before we close up. Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. Look, that's what we're here for. Well, I want to give you an opportunity, one fire hose minute of talking to individuals about the Invest in Self podcast. Okay, your show.
So guys, I have 2 podcasts on the Invest in Yourself podcast website. It's the Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur podcast. If you want to learn how to make money online legally, but you're not sure who or what to follow, go to this podcast, listen to the shows, because I am talking with 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs who created a business from starting from freelancing to agency owners to digital marketers, Facebook ads, network marketers. I'm to authors, people who have created their life online so that they don't have to work this sad 9 to 5. So if you feel like you want to get out of the 9 to 5, but you're not sure how to by using the internet, listen to those episodes. You just go to investinyourselfpod.com. If you are a podcaster and you want to learn how to take your podcast to the next level, there is a podcast series where I interview podcasters, ask them about their pain points, how they overcame them, so that you can take your podcast to the next level. And also there's a free private group that I go live every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, teaching you guys different methods and interviewing different companies that help podcasters. So you can find that at feelbetterinc.com/Facebook group. I have a question. Is that a Rodecaster Pro?
I'm sorry?
Is that a Rodecaster Pro?
It is.
My man.
It is. Yes, sir.
Oh,
So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Healed with Seth the Speaker. And thank you, Mr. Feel Better. We were talking about burnout, but not just the burnout. Okay. How do you break through that barrier? And there were so many different jewels and things that you said that was so profound, not only just for me, but for the individuals that's listening now and that will later on. So it's more than the vision boards. It's more than having these affirmations. When do you act? Ladies and gentlemen, the definition of action is energy and movement. So you can have the energy, but if you don't do anything with it, what are you doing? Right? And yes, you can lose and burn calories by sitting down. But I tell you one thing, you burn more calories getting up doing something than running your mouth. Make that make sense. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Healed with Seth. And don't forget, if you do want to contribute to the Patreon, make sure you go to patreon.com/healed. And if you do want to connect and have another type of conversation on how to be the best version of yourself, you can go to SethTheSpeaker.com. Again, SethTheSpeaker.com. Phil, thank you again, sir.
I want to thank you and your audience. I'm sorry if I rambled. I'm glad you found some golden nuggets in there. I don't know if I was dropping golden nuggets. I'm just telling my truth. But yes, thank you, Seth, for having me on your show.
No doubt. Well, look here, you stay put. But ladies and gentlemen, we will see you soon, and be the best version of yourself. You cannot be better for the next person if you don't take care of you first. We'll see you soon.